Alright, Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Hebrews. Man, the Israelite issue has to be solved to have peace on earth. You know, they know this. They know that the Israel, in order to have real, lasting peace on earth, the Israelite issue has to come to an end. Man, it has to come to an end, and we know truth. And it's going to come to an end because prophecy say so. You know, prophecy is guiding the future. All right, Israelites, you know, the Israelite issue got to be solved in order to have peace on earth. Who knows this? Ashkenazi and the Sephardi groups know this. Those two groups been having proxy wars over the Israelite heritage since we abandoned it to them, and that's where all the wars come from that's on this earth. Even though it didn't distance itself from its original source, it is still the same, and you can see it. You know, the proxy wars that the Sephardis and the Ashkenazi groups been having against each other. You know, and man, that's what's been destroying the earth. And it has to come to an end because us real Israelites are waking up. And, you know, we want our heritage back. And this prophecy about the Israelite ending that can't happen between those two groups because they are not Israelites, and they holding prophecy up in a sense by pretending to be Israelites. You know, and you know, it's gonna be kind of like, you know, difficult, really not difficult for those two groups to abandon the Israelite heritage, since they done established so much history under the Israelite title. But what we Israelites, the real Israelites in captivity, you know, can do is that, you know, truth gonna prevail over lies. In our truth about us being the original Israelites and what happened to us, man, it's fixing to come to light. It's in the spotlight already. We just need the rest of the Israelites, man, to see what's going on and understanding. But I want to make this video, you know, the Israelite issue has to be solved to have peace on earth. You know, the Israelite issue has to come to an end. You know, we know the truth, and not all Israelites know the truth, because you have a great percentage of the Israelite community, man, more than over half of the Israelite community using the history that the Jewish community created. You know, we abandoned our heritage to them, and they took on the Israelite title, and they started creating history under the Israelite title. And Israelites mostly believe in that history, and that's where the confusion is in the Israelite community, is that Israelites don't know the difference between real Israelite history and Jewish history. And I'm gonna try to bring a little clarity to it with this video, and you'll be able to understand, you know, who Ashkenazi is and who the Sephardi is. Alright, you know, and man, I wanna this video is about this too. How did Ashkenazi and Sephardi get the Israelite heritage, and will the real Israelites get their heritage back? Like I say, we gonna have to get our real heritage back. We gonna have to get it back. It's coming back. You know what I'm saying? We got the history, you know what I'm saying, back. You know what I'm saying? We just need a land settlement, and the land settlement is not going to be for every Israelite, because the majority of the Israelite community is using the Jewish community history, or what I call them, the Jewish myths, you know, and the Israelites believe in that, and you shouldn't be able to participate in a settlement or go home with false history when Tanakh say that we all know the truth. And I'm going to show that real quick under the new covenant. we gonna all know the truth, and meaning that we gonna go home believing in the myths and the stuff like that, the myths and the lies and so forth that's been created about the Israelite heritage. You know, if you go to Jeremiah 31, and he gonna be making these statements in this history dealing with the prophet Jeremiah was doing our last act on the promised land for the 99%. For the 99%, you know, we ran into Africa, and 1%, less than 1% was captured and taken to Babylon, and then they made it back home. And that's the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. They cover that little 1%, and they books and history is all, man, it show you that the exiles were destroyed, and I got plenty of videos explaining how the exiles from Babylon was destroyed because they couldn't stay on the promised land. Now, when these other folks had settled, and I'm gonna show Ashkenazi settling in our land after the Babylonian wars, after they defeated the Assyrians, Nineveh in 612 BCE, they made a beeline to the promised land, because you know, you also know that the Assyrians had installed, you know, the Satyr kings in Egypt in 697 BCE. So you know, the Scythians, Ashkenazi, would be coming our way to deal a final blow to the Assyrian Empire, as the prophet Nahum had called for. You know, these prophets, man, we should be thankful as Israelites that we are kin to the prophets. You know, it wouldn't be no prophets living. It wouldn't have been no prophets, Israelite prophets, living, that if it wasn't for the prophet Jacob, who we all are descended from, and we should be very thankful to be of the lineage of prophet Jacob, you know, with the prophecies and so forth. Man, and that's a direct connection to the Creator that we Israelites do have if we plug into it. All right, I mean, if you go to Jeremiah 31. So this is how all Israelites got to know the truth and can't go home believing in the Jewish myths. You know, behold, the days come that this is Jeremiah 31, 31. Behold, the days come, saith the Elohim, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, said the Elohim. Yeah, we broke that covenant, and it makes sense that Almighty Yah not gonna give us the covenant that He gave us when we came out of Egypt that we broke, is because, you know, it's modern times, and we're gonna have to have a new covenant, but it's gonna be based upon some of those forever statutes that the Creator had gave to Prophet Moses. They can't never go away. Yeah, we gonna search Torah history diligently, meant to get an understanding about it when we get in our heritage. Hebron. All right. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, said the Elohim. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days. You know what I'm saying? Those days got to be the punishment. The punishment for breaking the covenant, because he's established that we had broke the covenant, which is what the book of Jeremiah is about. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, said the Elohim. I will put my law in their inward parts, and will write it in their hearts, and will be their Yah, and they shall be my people, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor like we doing now. Got to teach these Israelites that don't know truth, that be using Jewish history, the real history, which is the Tanakh. And they shall teach no more every man his brother, and every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Elohim, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. Look, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and the teaching thing's gonna be over with, because the Israelites gonna know the difference between Jewish history and Israelite history. And Israelite history is the Tanakh, and then that's gonna make you love the Creator, because you will know that it's all true. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their heart, and I will be their Yah, and they shall be my people, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Elohim, for they shall all know me, from the least of them men unto the greatest of them. See, but the thing is, the new covenant, and that's what we're gonna have when we get home, and we're not gonna be using the Jewish people's history. You see? All right. All right. How did Ashkenazi, man? I'm gonna jump into this. How did Ashkenazi and Sephardi get the Israelites' heritage? And will the real Israelites get their heritage back? Yeah, we're going to get our heritage back, because they can't fulfill this. They can't fulfill this prophecy, even though they done tried by establishing the promised land when they did after World War II, and then that tried to make it seem like prophecy was being fulfilled and so forth. But prophecy wasn't being fulfilled. Prophecy wasn't being fulfilled because there's no everlasting peace. There's no everlasting peace. And this is a prophecy for the Israelites and the Jewish community don't, fit this after, returning back to the land that we abandoned to them. All right, let me read this prophecy. For the Elohim will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Israel. We know that ain't happening in the promised land with the Jews, but with the Jewish community there. Oh man, the meaning ain't nothing but pure turmoil and pure chaos. Turmoil and chaos over there, and them folks fighting and been fighting a long time. For the Elohim will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Israel, and the people shall take them, and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Elohim for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressor. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Elohim shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from thy hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. Now check this out. This is real important right here. When Prophet Isaiah was telling us that we should take up this proverb, men against the king of Babylon, the Babylonians were not in the picture, and were not the problem, and that the problem was the Assyrian Empire. And being that Prophet Isaiah resided in Judah's inheritance, he seen what the Assyrians did to the Israelite nation, and how that it wasn't good. They robbed them and spoiled us, man. They treated us real bad for associating with them and so forth. So this proverb, it was speaking about future reference, because the Babylonians were not the problem during the time that Prophet Isaiah wrote this, and that the Babylonians become a problem after the death of King Josiah, man. Men around about 601, I think King Josiah passed, but around about 595 BCE, the book of Ezekiel, give you the history, is when we start having problems with the Babylonians, man. It's about 100 some years after prophet Isaiah was already gone, or even then made this statement about Babylon. But he was telling us for future reference, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how had the oppressor ceased, the golden city ceased? And sure enough, prophet Isaiah prophecy is on time, because the Amorites controlled the Babylon. The Amorites controlled the Babylon in this capitalistic system. Is here in America. It is the daughter of Babylon without question, because I show how the Amorites came to America and founded it and set up its administrative structure. That this whole capitalist system, from the naming of the streets to judges to the police, the whole administrative America structure is similar to Babylon. So, Prophet Isaiah was telling us that the Elohim had broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with continual stroke. And we the only people, us Israelites, are the only people on the face of the earth that done been dogged out continuously for 400 years. Ain't nobody been oppressed directly and dogged out for 400 years, whereas the other nations had a choice, because they let them folks into their house and into their nation and tried to become part of them, and they got dogged out. Whereas we was kidnapped. Kidnapped, meaning taken into bondage. But we know it was for breaking covenant. Elohim had broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath and with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger and persecuted, and none hindered. Nobody none stop America. Meaning the whole world know America none enslaved and then dog folks out. And look, man, I got this video where they tricking the folks, man, about the Chinese, making it seem like the Chinese is a threat, man, to the West, and they ain't never said how that America and Britain occupied China and dogged them folks out. But it wasn't nothing but a proxy war. That's when Ashkenazi was at its best. Listen to this. Man, I just had to play this, and this right here.
In the scramble to get opium money, China was invaded and colonized by Britain and the other imperial powers. Foreign armies grabbed whole swathes of China. This is the American army in Tiananmen Square.
The American army in Tiananmen Square in Beijing. They ain't never told us nothing about that.
Shanghai were taken over and declared concessions. And foreigners lived a life of privilege and luxury amidst terrible poverty.
Yeah, but the Chinese didn't go into slavery like us Israelites did with a continual stroke for 400 years. They was able to get the oppressor up off them and then change the table where they chasing the oppressor. Now, got the oppressor running all around a globe, running, trying to get it together for this big showdown that's finna take place. But it ain't nothing but an Ashkenazi and a Sephardi proxy war. The East versus the West. The West is controlled by Ashkenazi, and the East, men, is controlled by the Sephardi groups, and they kick back and have wars and so forth by proxy. But look, all right, the whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. Yeah, the fir tree rejoices at thee, because the Babylonian economic system is broke down. When prophet Isaiah was talking about Babylon, Babylon wasn't even the issue then. They wasn't even on the radar. They wasn't even on the radar. But this prophet telling you, you know what I'm saying, them in the battle our end. And sure enough, we caught in the system, just like he said, this capitalist system where it just destroy the earth. Look, the Elohim had broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger. In anger is persecuted and none hindered. The whole earth is at rest. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yeah, the fir trees rejoice at thee, the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no filler is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirred up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It had raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations, and sure enough, they done dug up all the Egyptian pharaohs and then got their DNA and doing all kind of old wicked stuff. And all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? And then that's what's happening to the United States, man. That they've been ruling with the paper game for a long time, and that the Eastern nations is finna have a resource-backed economy backed by gold and so forth, and how the Western nations, oh man, it's over with. It's over with. So they got to go to war. They got to go to war. But all this going to translate into our freedom. The pump is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thee in heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yah. And that's what they trying to do now. I will also sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will sing above the heights of the cloud. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness? That's this capitalistic Babylonian system. And as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of the prisoners, all the kings of the nations, even all them lie in glory, everyone in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, as the remain of those that are slain, thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden underfoot. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slain the people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. And that's that Babylonian capitalistic system. For I will rise up against them. Yes, 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 yes. And then when we go to 41, so we know that the Jewish people's history cannot fulfill this prophecy, because they are the ones just powering the system that the prophecies have to overcome. So they can't never be the Israelites. They can't never be the Israelites. They can't never be the Israelites. So we getting our heritage back by prophecy. We getting our heritage back by prophecy. And then look, man, there's so many prophecies about our end, and then how it'll be good for us, and then how that the people that have our heritage, it's not good for them, and it ain't gonna get good for them, and it's only gonna get worse, because prophecy has to come true. You know, they know it's a real Yah, so his word gonna come true. So those pretending to be Israelites, they days are numbered. And it's coming to an end now. And then that's why I want to show how the Ashkenazi and Sephardi get in the Israelite heritage. And will the real Israelites get their heritage. Alright, Ashkenazi gonna get in our heritage under the name Scythian. Scythian. You know, Ashkenazi gonna get in our heritage under the name Scythian, and a lot of Israelites don't know that. You know, the majority of the Israelites don't even have a thought about Ashkenazi or the Sephardi groups, and just totally blind to them being in the promised land. And then some Israelites see them in the promised land and be so confounded and don't even know how to go about addressing them, that they say, our land, we from somewhere else, and we from the Americas, and we from everywhere else but the promised land, because they don't know how to address them. They don't know how to look at them. They don't even know how to start men in the beginning of any kind of way to address them folks' history. So those Israelites will say, we from somewhere else and we from the Americas, because that's easy for them to digest and then build a false history around. Well, the Sephardists put a false history out for you for that already. All right, Ashkenazi men gonna come into our heritage under the name Scythian. He gonna come into our name under the name Scythian, and then he was with the Ashkenazi was with the Babylonians. Matter of fact, he made up the Babylonian nation. He made up the Babylonian nation of the Chaldeans. When we start having problems with them, the Ashkenazi was in control of the Babylonian nation. They had wrestle control from the Sephardi's, who made their homeland in the promised land around us. They had tricked us a long time ago. And plus some of them settled in our land. The Sephardi's during the Assyrian times. So, the Babylonians, they was probably getting away from the Ashkenazi, because Ashkenazi during them times wasn't no joke, and he was just a weapon of war. But here go the Sephardi's being placed in our land. They was both slick. The ones that got in our heritage after Exodus, the Gibeonites were Amorites, and these folks here were Amorites. But these was the most powerfulest ones, because we got their Babylonian system, and then these the ones that created Judaism. Look, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cutter and from Abel and from Hamath and from Sephardim. Sephardim is the Hebrew word for Sephardi, Sephardim, and Sephardic, even though they didn't changed it in the search engine. But, that's where the Sephardists come from. They are Amorites. And they was placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. So, I already showed also, but I'm going to show it since I'm talking about it, how the Amorites got in our heritage long time ago, way before Ashkenazi pull up. So this is why Ashkenazi would have proxy wars with the Sephardi groups, is because the Sephardi groups didn't run off into Africa like we Israelites did when Ashkenazi pulled up under the Babylonian title. See, so the Sephardi's will still be there, and being that they portrayed or pretend to be Israelites. And Ashkenazi gonna be at war with them, but Ashkenazi gonna know who the real Israelites are, because they chased them into Africa. That's what the book of Jeremiah is about. All right, now let me see where I'm from. Oh, let's see where we finna go with this. All right, so we know that Ashkenazi name in history is Scythian, but look, they was with the Babylonians. Look, Nineveh, the battle of Nineveh in 612 BC is the destruction of the Assyrian Empire. Now, I already showed in some of the videos how the Assyrians set the Satai kings up in Egypt, and that was in 697 BCE. So when the Babylonians were told to destroy Nineveh, the Assyrian capital and empire, that those Scythians was gonna come through the promised land and come to chase us out, because the Egyptians had tried to help us in our last stance with fighting the Babylonians. They tried to help us. The men of Tanakh full of their history, how Necho and the pharaohs tried to help, and they even set up King Josiah's son that will follow the Egyptian religious system, Jehoiakim, and then they took his brother, probably a Yah worshiper, to Egypt. But how the Egyptians tried to use the promised land as as a shield to keep them Scythians from coming into Egypt. And the Babylonians came into Egypt and sat there and had control of it for 50 years, but that's not talked about because then they'll have to explain what happened to the Israelites and where they go. And I showed that we went deeper into the Sahara. See, a lot of this history dealing with Tanakh, they not going to talk about or even write about it because it just leads to meant to us and show that they are not the Israelites. But you see, Scythian, look, you see Scythian right there. The Babylonians, the Medes, the Babylonians, and the Scythians. Now we know that the Ashkenazi is the Scythians and gonna always be the Scythians, even though they'll try to change it. Look, Ashkenazi and Scythians. You know, they know Ashkenazi is the Scythians. Ashkenazi is the Scythian. They was one in the same place. You had some small ones and you had some dumb ones. And it would be Ashkenazi in the Greeks that would destroy the Persians, that would get the exiles, that would allow the Greeks to come into the promised land because of the exile sins. And that's the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. Those 5 books cover the exile sins that would allow the Greeks to come in. And the Greeks had the Persians with them. The Greeks had the Scythians with them when they destroyed the Persians. That's what I meant to say. And I'm gonna show this. Him and the Israelites come back home from captivity and start sinning real bad. And look here, Scythian campaign of Durus. You know what I'm saying? The Scythians was after Durus, and they cut his head off. Yeah, this is 513 BCE. The Persians. How did the Persians escape the Scythians? You know what I'm saying? So the Persians were the exiles' protectors. The Persians were the exiles' protectors because they defeated the Babylonians. The Creator called Cyrus by name like 175 years before he was even born. The same as King Josiah. Called him by 300 years before he was born. And then they came and performed just like prophecy said. But, the Scythians, Ashkenazi, would whoop the Persians because the Persians were the exiles' protectors. Alright, so we know that the Scythians is Ashkenazi. The Scythians is Ashkenazi, and they'll tell you too. And then this is what I want to show that how that that Christianity got started in the Discopolis, in Scythopolis, what Ashkenazi was. And then that's why come the Christian nations is mostly predominantly been the European nations, the Slavic nations, and all these parts and stuff. Men up here, totally Christian, totally, and that's Christianity was developed by Ashkenazi and Scythopolis. And if you Israelites look at that, you're gonna be surprised, man, how Ashkenazi had their hands in the development of Christianity, and they even assisted the Greeks. I just showed how the Greeks had units of Scythians, but the Scythians been settled in our land. The Scythians been settled in our land after the Babylonian Wars, and they settled in what will become Scythopolis, but his real name was Bethshan. Bethshan was the real name, but they would call it Scythopolis, the city of the Scythians. And look, the Greeks, look, the city was refounded by Ptolemy the second Philadelphus, who called it Scythopolis. city of the Scythians. You know what I'm saying? All right, so they used the Scythians had function, and the Scythians were mercenaries. They was mercenaries because the the Greeks were fighting against the Persians, and the Scythians drove us out during the Babylonian Wars. So they would try to keep they stay in the promised land, and they did, and they would burn her temple up in 70 AD and get books and all kind of stuff, and then get educated in Judaism. The Sephardi groups held the power all the way to the Roman times, and the Romans backed it Ashkenazi and lived in Ashkenazi's territory and had the seas, the holy seas in Scythopolis. That's something serious. The holy seas is the military power, branch, and might of the Roman Empire, and they had that in Scythopolis. Let me see the holy seas in Scythopolis. I had it pulled up one time. Let me see if I could pull it up again. But yeah, the holy seas was in Scythopolis. And then they had all the important bishops. Ashkenazi gonna be done settled after the Babylonian Wars, and he had problems, but he stood his ground, and he fought off the Sephardis. He fought off the Sephardis and the Maccabees and all them, and was able to stay in our heritage. Look, the Scythopolis, the holy seas. Now here's something real important. When it's the holy seas, all right. Look, all these folks, Shrill. Look, other notable Christians of Scythopolis. In the 6th century, there were 4 churches in Scythopolis dedicated to Apostle Thomas, John, Evangelical Saint, such and such, and Bursell and other local martyrs. Many monks lived in the town in this division occupied marking basket. All right, but you see all these folks, all them folks right there. All them folks made Christianity. Christianity wouldn't be nothing. Matter of fact, Christianity didn't even get its start at the Council of Nicaea, but got started in Scythopolis first. This is where Arius and his bishops and all them ran to. Men to hide and so forth. And then how Scythopolis was the main place. And it was even established before the Council of Nicaea, the Nicene Creed. Let me see. And for both Scythopolis, Jerusalem, the bishops Maximus of Jerusalem, who supported the Nicene Creed to replace him with Cyril of Jerusalem. But this was before, Scythopolis was before the Council of Nicaea, and they had all the Christian bishops and martyrs hanging around there and stuff. The city was taken by the Crusaders under their rule. Then, it was moved to Nazareth. But the Crusaders didn't fight the Scythians because they all partners, and the Scythians created Ashkenazi created the Crusaders, who ain't nothing but Christian organizations. And then I show in my videos, in one of the videos, how the Sephardi groups were the ones, the Edomites that was converted to our heritage under Judaism by them Amorites that was in our heritage, were the Jews that Muhammad associated with, and that's all he knew. And Islam would be created with the knowledge of the Sephardi Jews in mind, and that how it wouldn't know nothing about us real Israelites and so forth, and then it'd be the proxy wars that the two religions would have with the two Jewish groups in the background. And it's like I just said in the video, that Ashkenazi only recognized, Christianity only recognized the Sephardis Christianity only recognized Ashkenazi as being the Israelites, and Sephardi is only seen by Islam as being the Israelites. And then that's what the Crusaders wars and stuff was about. And that whenever they establish control, that the groups that favor them can come live in the land and prosper and get it going and 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 build the economy up and so forth, because Ashkenazi did come from Babylon. All right, so we know that Ashkenazi is the Scythians, and they come in our heritage during the Babylonian wars and settled in Scythopolis. So that's how Ashkenazi got in our heritage. And the Sephardis, man, it's a little more complicated with them because they are Amorites, and the Amorite groups went all the way to Mesopotamia, and that's one of the reasons why the Creator told us to destroy from the Nile to the Euphrates and so forth, and we would have got them folks too. But look here, these are Amorites that got in our heritage a long time ago. I've been over this quite a few times, but it's good to keep going over so you Israelites are just have it just cemented in your mind and so forth. All right, and then this is the Amorites, and then this is where the Sephardi's getting our heritage, and they a little more slick. They gonna be a little more slick than anything is because the serpent got mixed into the Amorites, and then it said that the serpent is more suitable and crafty than any creation that Almighty Yah created. So we know that if them Amorites and them mixed in with the serpent, man, that he gonna take on some of the serpent craftiness, and then that's what we've been dealing with on earth and so forth. That's what we've been dealing with on earth. It's the craftiness that come from the serpent that's in them folks that control our heritage, and that's why it's been hard for us to get our heritage back. Look, now the serpent was more suitable than any beast of the field, which and then now the serpent is counted as a beast, not a reptile. Now the serpent was more suitable than any beast of the field which the Elohim Yah had made. See, so if them groups, which one of them did, the Amorites mixed with the giants, who the Sephardists would be, they gonna be crafty out of this world. And then that's where all the false history come from on this earth. Man, I showed that when we broke covenant, that they hurry up and went to all the lands and destroyed their history. Destroyed all the lands' history all around the world. They hurry up and took off and destroyed the folks' records and their books about their history, and then get them false history and get the world false history about them, since they created false history about us Israelites. They created false history about us Israelites, then they gonna get a world false history. And all that come from the craftiness of the serpent, because he's more crafty than anything. Look, this is how they come into our heritage. They tricked us off the flop. Soon as we left Egypt, and we didn't consult the Creator with destroying them folks, that them folks had us make a vow in Yah name, and we couldn't go back on it. And then that would destroy us, because they never left our heritage. And then this who Ashkenazi would be battling with, because these folks got a long standing men in our heritage. These would be the Nethinims and all them other folks combined. And it come to pass when all the kings which were on this side of Jordan and in the hills and in the valleys and on the coast and in the great sea over against Lebanon, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, that they gathered themselves together to fight with Joshua and with Israel with one accord. Our enemies be with one accord with fighting us and so forth. But we don't have no unity to fight against our enemies, because our people's confused, don't know what's going on. Look, they did work. And when the inhabitants of Gabon heard that Joshua had done unto Jericho and Ai They did work willingly and went and made as if they had been ambassadors and took old cloths and old ashes and wine bottles and rent up and bound up and old shoes and clotted out their feet and old garments. Man, they put on some old stuff and tricked us real good because they made it seem like, man, that they was coming from a long distance and that how they heard of us and then how they just wanted to serve us because they seen that the Creator was with us, but they was tricking us all the time. See, sometimes when your enemy come in peace, it's really war. It's really war, and then that's how they came to us in peace. But it was really war because we was in war with them. But they tricked us. They tricked us, and we didn't consult the Creator. And the Gabonites were Amorites, and the Sephardis from Sipper are Amorites, pure Amorites. The Amorites, pure off the fallen angelic beings descended from them. So, men, they been tricking the whole world because they kin to the serpent. And the serpent was tricky. All right, look. All right, the Gabonites. All right, so these Gabonites were really Amorites. See, we tell everything in our history. And the king called the Gabonites and said unto them, look, now the Gabonites were not of the children of Israel, but of the remain of the Amorites. So they was in our heritage. They was in our heritage because we made them carriers of wood in whatever temple that we build or whatever congregation we had, that we was going to make them service. So they would be on the inside. And that's why the priests and the folks could never get it together, because you got tricky Amorites in the congregation and in the temple. They throw they women. Man, they throwing they women. Man, at the Israelite priests and got them all messed up throughout the whole Tanakh. We never could get it together. We never could get it together. The only time we got it together was under King David. And King David showed them what time it was when he went and took Jerusalem, Jebus. You know what I'm saying? When he took Zion. When he took Zion, he let the Amorites know what time it was. That he wasn't playing no game, because he took their headquarters and their college, Zion. And they sat down and was quiet his whole time. But soon as King David died, they corrupted his son Solomon. Man, they corrupted Solomon real fast. Solomon got corrupted so fast, man, that he didn't even get a chance. You know what I'm saying? He didn't get a chance. Man, they throw they women, everybody on Solomon and so forth. And Solomon brung the whole Israelite nation down. Brung the whole Israelite nation down. Look, it's 1 Kings 11. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, and Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning the Elohim. And unto the children of Israel ye shall not go in unto them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they shall turn you away, and turn your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto them in love. So that what Solomon did, and Solomon brung the whole Israelite nation down, and we never really recovered. But one time under King Josiah, when he cleaned the nation up, and then the Egyptians would come kill him and put us back on Egyptian religion, and we was driven out the land by Ashkenazi under the name Scythian during the Babylonian wars. And then those Sephardi already in our heritage as Amorites, Gabonites, and then they come from Super during the Assyrian times. The capitalist professors and the priests from Super, and man, they consumed our whole heritage. After we was ran out the land, they got our heritage, and then Ashkenazi and them men to be fighting over the Israelite heritage. They would be fighting over the Israelite heritage, and one would create Christianity and the other would create Islam, and they would fight. And then that's what's going on now today is that the Eastern nations is backed by the Sephardi, and they finna have a show out with Ashkenazi, who control the West. And then that's why I say that the Israelite issue has to be settled, because we know truth now. We know truth now, and there ain't no sense them two groups trying to keep this charade going on when we know, how they got into our heritage, and the Israelite issue gonna have to be settled because Tanakh say so, and those groups and people don't fit the prophecy and can't fit the prophecy because they are not the people. The only way to have peace on earth is to settle the Israelite issue. I believe that the Ashkenazi community gonna help settle this Israelite issue because they don't have no choice, and it's in they favor to settle the Israelite issue. Whereas the other groups, man, are tenant with Edom, and it's real complicated dealing with them, and how that they just been falsifying our history for so long, that man, we don't even want to deal with them, and that how we'll deal with the Ashkenazi community. All right, Israelites, I show y'all, that man, truth is what we have to have on heritage, and how we can't use the Jewish community history to present as truth, because that keep us out of our heritage and basically help our enemies and so forth. All right. When the Creator told Ashkenazi under the name Scythian to destroy men of Syria, you should read the book of Nahum. Nahum go into it, and then that's the Scythians call, and the Scythians who he talking about, the prophet Nahum. I turn right to it. 697. I mean, it's just when they had went and established Egypt, the Assyrians. The burden of Nineveh, the book of the vision of Nahum, the Ishkush. Yah is jealous, and the Elohim reserved, the Elohim revenged, and is furious. The Elohim will take vengeance on his adversary, and he reserveth wrath for his enemies. The Elohim is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. The Elohim had his way in the whirlwind, and in the storm and the clouds are the dust of his feet. And he rebuketh the sea and maketh it dry, and dried up all the rivers. Bashan languished, Carmel and the flowers of Lebanon languished. The mountains quake at him, and the hills melt, and the earth is burnt at his presence. Yea, the world and all that dwelleth therein. Who can stand before his indignation? And who can abide in his fierceness of his anger? His fury is poured out like fire, and the rocks are thrown down by him. The Elohim is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trusteth in him. But with a overrunning flood, he will make an utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. What do ye imagine against the Elohim? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not arise up the second time. For while they be folded together as thorns, and while they are drunken as drunkards, they shall be devoured, and stubble and furry. There is no one that there is one come out of thee that imagine evil against the Elohim. You see, that's what got Assyria destroyed, is when they start talking crap. When they start talking crap to Hezekiah, telling him what God gonna help y'all, you know what I'm saying, and who gonna help y'all, now that I did this to you. And that's what the king of Assyria did, and then that's what got him tore up, because remember, 697 BCE is not too far from 722 BC, man. That might be about a good 25, 30 years. You know what I'm saying? time difference and so forth, and then how the Assyrians was finna get destroyed because they said this. I'm finna find it. This is what they said that got them destroyed. You know, the Assyrian king told the people, let me see if I can find it. All right. And Rabshakeh said unto, speak now ye to Hezekiah. This said the great king, the king of Assyria, what confidence is this wherein thou trustest? Thou sayest, but thou art but vain words. I have counsel and strength for the war. Now whom doest thou trust, that thou rebellest against me? Now behold, thou trustest upon the staff of this bruised reed, Egypt, even upon Egypt, on which if a man lean, you know what I'm saying, so forth. But yeah, see, me and dude started talking crap that the king of Assyria did, you know what I'm saying? And he was saying, who God's gonna save you because I did this, meaning I did that. My ancestors whooped these folks and they gods couldn't help them. And that's what the king of Assyria said. So immediately after he did that, man, it wasn't too long when the prophet Nahum come with his oracles for Nineveh's destruction. Nineveh's destruction. And then it happened real fast, man. The Scythians tore a hole, and that's Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi is the Scythians, because you remember, I just showed you how Ashkenazi destroyed Nineveh. And they was part of the destruction that that rained down on Nineveh. And then this will be them. Right there. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, when he was calling for the horseback folks, the bow in his ride, y'all army against Nineveh. See, this is one of the reasons why we got to work with Ashkenaz is because Almighty Yah told him to do different acts throughout their existence with dealing with the Israelite heritage, and they completed the mission. So they last job, man, is to bring us home and help us deal with Edom, and then that'll solve the whole Israelite issue. That'll bring the Israelite issue to an end. Alright, he that dashes in pieces is come up before thee face. Keep the munition, watch the way, make the loins strong, fortify the power mightily. For the Elohim had turned away the excellency of Jacob and the excellency of Israel, for the emptiers have emptied them out and marred their vine branches. The shield of his mighty men is made red, the valiant men are scarlet, the chariots shall be with flaming torches in the day of his preparation, and the fir tree shall be terribly shooken. You know, but anyway, this goes on to, you know, describe Nineveh's destruction, because we start robbing with the Assyrians come got us to fight the Amorites that they had been fighting for a long time in Babylon. We had whooped them, and it was recorded in history. And the Syrian was some robbers, but they got the big head and thought that they gods was giving them all the power when they was using the Israelites, you know, strength and energy, the same as America. You know, America think that its power come from its military might and just how genius they is. No, their power come from having the Israelites captive and not being able to be destroyed because that. But now that our 400-year bondage is up, that man, they got to get destroyed because it's Israelites. They can't go back to the promised land with the false doctrines that they hold in belief in that belong to, you know, the Sephardi groups, the Amorites, our enemies. But the Israelite issue gonna have to be settled, and it's gonna have to be settled. And the more truth we Israelites know and can show other people, man, it cement our heritage. The more of us wake up to our true heritage and not use the Jewish myths and false history, and that's going to be all the books outside the Tanakh. All of them. All of them. All the books outside the Tanakh our enemies wrote, and how we are only just responsible for that one history, the Tanakh history. All right, Israelites, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. You know, the Ashkenazi coming our heritage under the name Scythian, and the Sephardi is the Amorites. They always been in our heritage, man, a long time since we Exodus. Since we Exodus, they got into our heritage. The Amorites did, and I showed in plenty of videos how that they was mixed in with the giants, so they gonna be real crafty, and that's where they craftiness come from, with deceiving everybody about the Israelite heritage. All right, Israelites, I think I just covered everything I think I wanted to talk about. Shalom, much love to the Israelite community, and I pray all the Israelite family members are doing well.